Welcome to Baby Loss Talk. I am your host, Janelle Adams, a fellow baby loss mom who created the show to help remove the stigma, shame, and loneliness of losing a pregnancy or infant by sharing real stories, advice, and resources. Welcome to episode 12 of Baby Loss Talk. Today I have Renee on the show, and she's going to be sharing her story of loss and what life looks like now during her healing process. So Renee, if you'd like to go ahead, just share a little bit about yourself and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me.
Welcome.
Like I said, I'm Renee. I live in Michigan currently, and I am because of my loss. I actually recently started a blog. So it's I am Renee Ashley, and it basically touches on like lifestyle, inspiration, self-care, just some of the things that I kind of needed for myself through that healing process. But it's just allowed me to kind of get in a place of just being very in tune with myself. So to say the least, I have that. And yeah.
So if it's okay that I ask, was this your very first pregnancy,
Yes.
this loss? Did you
Yes,
always want to be a mom? Did you have you been planning this for a while? Was it like a surprise?
No, yeah, it was definitely a surprise. I how old am I? Sometimes I just don't remember.
Hey, me either.
Right? Life. I'm 28.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always had the desire to be a mother, but I didn't expect to become one anytime soon. I kind of am one of those like millennials that's like work first and then everything else after. So I was totally okay with like becoming a mom in my later 30s.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't something that was planned for either. It is something that, just kind of happened.
Yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't something that I was planning for, but I knew eventually in life I'd be a mom eventually.
So were you like shocked when you found out, or were you like,
yes. Yeah. So when the day that I had found out was actually the day that I put my dog to sleep.
oh.
So it was like a whole mixture of emotions.
Mm-hmm.
I had a puppy. He lived to be like 9 months. He never recovered from a surgery that he got. So we had made the decision to just put him to sleep. So when I found out officially that day that I was pregnant, to me, I was kind of viewing it as like, oh, maybe this is like the silver lining to my life or something, because I had cared for this dog and put so much money into this dog's little life, because I'm a huge animal lover, like just huge. And he was my child. And I babied him and I took care of him just like that. So when I found out I was expecting, I was like, okay, God, like, maybe, I don't know, this is like you giving this gift back to me of, I don't know, some type of reassurance or something like that. So kind of viewed it differently.
Gotcha. And then how was your pregnancy overall? Like, was it normal for the most part? I know this was your first pregnancy, so you didn't have anything to compare it to. My first loss was my first pregnancy as well. I was 24 years old, so I had like no idea how any of this worked.
Right.
So I don't know if you were kind of like me, where you were just like I'm going along. I'm kind of sort of learning.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, so I'm very much a type A person. So when I found out, of course, I went to Barnes and Noble and I got like 2 books. And then I'm like, yeah, I'm not about to read these books. So I went and took them back and I just started Googling things. I would Google and, when you're pregnant, I'm sure you got this. Everyone shares their opinion of like what to do, what not to do, because I really didn't know. So it was definitely like a lot of learning along the way. Even now, I learned so many things I would do differently for like my next pregnancy. But overall, I did have a really good pregnancy. I had a little bit of morning sickness, but that was it. like, I don't know, I didn't go through a lot of things that some people went through. I felt like it was just very like just
Can you
streamlined.
kind of like lead me up to like that day? Was there anything that went wrong all of a sudden, or?
Yeah, so it was just very shocking. So my son ended up passing away on Sunday. It was February 12th, Sunday. And I had just went to the doctor that Thursday. I don't know what day that was, but just a few days before. And I had, my normal checkup, and she was measuring him, and he was measuring to be a little bit smaller.
Mm-hmm.
She made an appointment for me to go to the fetal specialist. And so I went there, and they did like a Doppler ultrasound, just more in depth, like, looking at the baby, looking at me and so forth. And he did still measure to be a bit smaller, but she said that could be, like a numerous amount of things, especially with me being so further along. And his heartbeat was fine. His fluid levels, everything was fine. So basically at the end of that appointment, she rescheduled my appointment to come back and see her the following Monday. And she told me that I was in like the 1% percentage for stillbirth. So I'm like, okay. So I went home. I didn't even go to work. I called off work. So I went home that Thursday. I worked Friday, I worked Saturday, and then it was late. So basically Sunday morning, I could just feel like this pressure in my stomach. Like I could feel like something just kind of dropped a little bit. And obviously I'm 36 weeks in a few days. So in my head, I'm thinking like, well, maybe these are the contractions that I keep reading about and people tell me about. So I'm like, I took a bath, I bounced on my little Pilates ball. I was like trying to do all these things. And I called the doctor to let her know, like, I'm like feeling a lot of discomfort. And she, just told me to wait it out a little bit. And then, if I'm still feeling the same pain or something, to call back and monitor my contractions. And so I did that on the app that I had, and they were like, what felt like contractions were very just closely, just very close together. So I called the doctor back. That's when they told us to come into the hospital. Once we got there, we were in the room, just waiting to be seen. And then when the nurse came in, it went from like 2 nurses to like 5 or 6 nurses. And it kind of had that feeling that something wasn't right. Plus I didn't feel him move for a while.
Yeah.
And the pain was just so uncomfortable. Which, because of what happened, it was him dropping, like he had dropped lower into like my pelvic area. So once we were in the room with the nurses, that's when they told us that they didn't see a heartbeat, and they just gave us our time to just be there and, kind of like process what happened. And in my mind, in the moment, I couldn't process what happened. I was already thinking like, how am I going to deliver, my son under these circumstances? Because the nurse had told me that I had to be induced. And I'm just mentally trying to prepare to even like go through that, because I'm like, why? I'm like, I can't get a C-section, something to make it try to hurt a little less, I guess. And so they gave us our time in the room. Then not too long after, she came in the room, and that's when she told me that I actually did have to have an emergency C-section, and I was going to be put to sleep. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't make sense, because most people aren't put to sleep for a C-section. So went back. That happened. They delivered him. And then, by the time I was back in the room and able to, just fully be aware and coherent, the doctors were talking to us. And that's when they told me eventually that I had a placenta abruption, which is what caused him to pass away. So I guess usually someone that goes through a placenta abruption has been in like a severe car accident, or someone that unfortunately may do drugs, or, other reasons. And from what I've learned, it's usually earlier on in the pregnancy, not like that close to the end of the pregnancy. So I don't know. It was really, really crazy. And one doctor would say one thing, another doctor would say another, and some thought it was like a mixture of preeclampsia. And I'm, all these terms that were being thrown at me, I'm like, I don't understand. I just don't get it. And I was just like so angry, because to me, why didn't we deliver him that Thursday? When I was initially at the maternal fetal specialist, and my OBGYN had, the reason that she had sent me there, she was like, well, you're either going to do one of two things. You're either probably going to have to stay in the hospital for a while and be monitored, or they may give you an emergency C-section. So
may I ask, I'm sorry, like what prompted her to send you to the specialist in the first place?
Because when I went to my checkup appointment, when he was measuring to be a bit smaller, and she
okay,
why, that's what prompted her to send me to the specialist for that reason. And then when the specialist did everything that she did, nothing looked out of the norm to her, aside from, yes, him measuring to be smaller, but nothing came up that made them feel like his life was at risk.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then here we are 3 days later, and he's passed away. So I was just angry, trying to process all of that. And it was just like an empty hurt.
Did you get to spend time with him in the hospital? Did they let you like hold him? Did they give you a little memory box? Did you take pictures?
Yeah, we got all of that. We got to spend some time with him right after they delivered him. And then even like the following day, they brought him back into the room for us to see him and everything. And then they did send us home with this really beautiful box. We obviously didn't have clothes there for him, so they clothed him for us. And we got his handprints, his footprints, pictures. They took professional pictures and gave that to me on a USB drive, and then gave me his clothes that he was dressed into. So
okay. And so I know just because I've been watching you on social media and stuff like that you're kind of on this like self-discovery journey right now, it seems like. So can you speak to like what that looks like for you, and like any new discoveries that you're making about yourself after the loss?
It's definitely been quite a journey, to say the least. Going through all that just completely just changed my perspective on life. And I'm probably gonna get emotional quite naturally.
That's okay.
Yeah, it just like the way that things happened that day, like literally my life literally did a whole 360 that day. Because going into the hospital, I just wasn't expecting that. And then like a month or 2 months later, when I had an appointment to go meet with my OBGYN, the lady at the fetal specialist, the doctor that I had seen that day, I made an appointment to like go meet with her and talk to her and stuff. And, like she was even just like, I guess apparently everyone at the office was just like, no words, and she told me, with me having that placenta abruption, I was internally bleeding. So if I hadn't have even gotten to the hospital when I did, I would have bled to death. And I guess the way things were happening in my stomach, because I wasn't spotting or anything, because I guess where the bleeding was occurring or something along those lines, it was like blocking it. So just to even like hear her share that, I was just like, just so, I was just so emotional. But I feel like when you go through such a heavy or hard loss, I don't want to say to come out on the other side, but to still be here and present and still know that God has purpose for you. You can't help but to just kind of shift your perspective and shift your life. And I had to do that just naturally as I felt ready. Like I didn't, to be just quite frank, like I didn't just run to God that day. I wasn't just praying to God that day because I was just very angry for a while and I just didn't understand. And I was just in a place of just blank, just like nothing.
Like disbelief. It's just like what happened to like wake up pregnant and then by the time you go to bed, it's like your entire life has changed. It's like
you know exactly what I'm saying. It's like every day, it's like I wasn't even in my own body. I was just up because I don't know, God chose to wake me up or something. I don't know. But I also reached a point where I kind of didn't care. I think just naturally I went through like every single emotion and
stages of grief.
Yeah, completely. But when I started to get to a better place, of getting a little bit stronger day by day on my own time and spending my own time with God when I felt ready to do it, I think that's just what started to like fill me up and give me a little more like hope. Like I would get like a little more each day or a little more strength each day. And connecting with like moms like you, and I connected with you and other ladies just to see where your situations brought you guys like on the other side of things, that I think just gives a lot of strength within itself. I feel like we find so much strength through other people's situations and journeys, to get that little piece of hope that we need to know like, I'll make it through this. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be long and it's going to be hard, but it's, I can make it through this.
And even by you sharing your story, unfortunately, there's going to be another woman who goes through something similar. And when they see you, they'll be like, oh my gosh, like, they might be on day 1 right now or, day 7. And when they see your story, they'll, find some hope. And that's why I wanted to do this whole, because I had like the idea for a while and I was like, are people going to really want to like sit and hear about us talking about how we lost our babies and stuff like, but it really resonates with so many women and they're, finding similarities in different stories and just, just realizing that you're not alone, I think is like the big thing.
Because, oh my God, it really is.
That was the thing for me. I was just like, I'm the only person this has ever happened to. Again, I was 24 years old, never been pregnant before. So to be thrown into this world of like losing a baby was like, something I never expected to happen to me.
Yeah. And I know you can agree to this too, but like, this happens to so many women, unfortunately, and it's just such an untouched conversation, whether if it's a miscarriage, stillbirth, infant loss, anything like that. Like it's such a common situation, and not a lot of women choose to share. And I know it's a very vulnerable personal thing, so you just share it as you choose to or you feel led to, if you ever do. But I think just the space in this community that you've created, we're, like I said in my blog, like we're not a part of the cool club. Nobody wants to be in this club, but we are, and we're here to support each other and be that shoulder for each other. Because if you haven't experienced losing a child, it's just, you can't relate to it quite naturally. But feeling of grief and loss, unfortunately, a lot of people can relate to on different levels. And it's just always good to have somebody to be able to talk to, even like what times you would check in with me just to see how I'm doing and how I'm feeling. Like, those moments, sometimes is just what somebody needs to hear. Just
sometimes we feel like people forgot about us. It's kind of like time moves on and they don't realize that we're like still stuck.
It's true. Yeah. Like this, like I think about this every day, at least still every day. I may not show it, but you know, it's like very present. And yeah, like you said, it can seem like other people have moved on and they forgot that you were once pregnant or this happened. But it's like, you know, unfortunately, every time I see a baby, I think of my son. I had so many girlfriends and friends around me that were expecting around the same time that I was before or after or whatever that looked like. And you know, they'll have conversations and stuff like that, and I'll you know, take what I can take, but you know, if I know that I can't handle something, then I remove myself quite naturally or whatever. But yeah, it can feel like sometimes people have forgotten, but we don't forget.
When you say you remove yourself, how do you handle that? Because I know that's something that a lot of us go through, especially in the beginning, where like just seeing a baby is a trigger, you know. I had the first my 6-week appointment after my daughter passed. I had a panic attack. I was just sitting in the waiting room surrounded by pregnant people, and I couldn't breathe. So it's like, you know, like we have these triggers, we don't know when they're gonna show up. In a situation where you feel triggered, I guess, but in those situations, what do you do? Do you just literally say, this is enough, I gotta go, or you know, like how do you handle that?
Yeah. Well, I've noticed for me, I do better with like kids or babies that were born before my son than I do with them after. Which, like I said, I have a mixture of friends that have had both or whatnot. So I have been in a few situations where, like, you know, people will get real heavy into the baby talk, or still having friends that are pregnant right now. But if I just start to feel like maybe that day that I woke up, I was already thinking about DJ, and you know, being in this conversation doesn't really work for me, I'll sometimes just say, like, you know, guys, I'm just gonna, you know, go to the bathroom and I'll be back or whatnot, or sometimes just follow up. Like I learned to just be vocal about how I feel in, you know, day to day. My therapist helped me realize that, like, it's okay to tell people what you need, because truly sometimes people just don't know. And sometimes they forget, or, you know, sometimes they just don't know what small things could be a trigger if they're not familiar with what a trigger is. So sometimes I will just follow up and just say, like, you know, like, I don't know, today I'm just not feeling my greatest. Like, I woke up thinking about my son today, or blah, blah, blah. So I think I'm just going to take myself out of the baby talk. But then sometimes there are days where I do feel a bit stronger, where I can give pregnancy advice to someone, you know, a friend, as they need it and they ask. But most people are very respectful, and they'll just be like, you know, like, do you mind if I ask you this? Like, how was your pregnancy at this week? Or how was this? Or how was that? And how my heart is, and most of my friends know that, like, I'm very giving, I'm very loving of myself. I try to help as much as I can, so I'll give what I can, but I'm very grateful if, you know, I can't, you know.
And that's so important, because for a lot of us, we don't have that skill, and so it's like, even when we're uncomfortable, like, we just try to suck it up because we're trying so hard not to make the other people uncomfortable. So I'm so happy that you're, you know, saying, like, okay, like, this is a little bit too much for me today. I'm just gonna, you know, go ahead and do that, because most of us don't know how to do that. So would you credit therapy to giving you, like, these tools?
I, like, just by nature, I'm a pretty vocal person with my personality, but I will say, like, therapy definitely helped me kind of learn how to feel what I need to feel and take on what I can, and you know, communicate what I can't. So that definitely gave me more of a guide to know that it's okay, and share that, you know.
That's awesome. That is so awesome, because I definitely didn't figure that out. I would just sit there and take it, and then I would go home and, like,
and just ball your eyes. Girl, listen, I understand because I've been there, but you know, we just got to be very in tune with what we need, because I feel like we need to be the most sensitive to ourselves and treat ourselves still with love and care and vocalize that to people.
What are some of your favorite self-care things that you do for yourself?
I love self-care. Oh, girl, I just love to be peaceful and relaxed. You have no idea. So I'm obsessed with baths. I took a bath pretty much every day throughout my pregnancy. So I still kind of do that now. It's just kind of like my me time. It was always my time to relax. So I would go to Lush and I would get a bath bomb. I'll get enough for the week. I do that. I enjoy wine. Self-care can look like so many things,
right?
Because it could be actual items that make me feel better, or actual like behaviors or places. So you can be like being to myself somewhere in a really cool like aesthetic. It could even be just a coffee shop or something, like something so small. And I love going outside. I love walking outside. So that's like my peaceful time too, because I like the serenity and views of just being outdoors. So I try to just, intertwine like personal things and like candles, just anything that just can allow me to have to be in a quiet place and just decompress.
Right. And so what is the biggest lesson that you've learned about yourself? Because this is pretty recent. How long ago did you take this?
It was in February.
In February. And it's only November at this time. So what have you learned about yourself in this short amount of time? Or I guess the biggest lesson you've learned about yourself?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good question. I would just say, I guess being true to myself, like knowing what I need and feeling what I need to feel, and knowing that it's okay to feel however I need to feel. Like giving myself that space to know that every day is not going to be a great day. Every day I'm not, waking up with the sun in my room and sniffing dandelions or whatever. Like, and that's okay. And some days are actually those great days. So I think I've learned this now more than ever, like give myself grace, I can feel whatever I need to feel, and it's okay for me to feel that way.
And then I just have another question for you, actually, that I lied. That was my last one. I find that there is no like postpartum like care of any sort, like especially for us, like one of the big things for me was I didn't know like my milk would come in or anything like that. It's kind of like, everything happens and they send you home, but they don't tell you anything. Was there anything like once you left the hospital that was like a real shocker for you, like in terms of postpartum, whether it was like feelings or like anything your body was doing that you just had no idea was going to happen because nobody tells us these things?
Yeah. I would say I don't feel like much was a shock. Like the main things in the hospital for me to leave, she told me what I needed to do to make sure the milk wouldn't produce or come. So I did that. It was mostly keeping 2 big bags of ice like around my neck, so they would just hang like around my breast area to I don't know how exactly that worked, but I did not get any milk at all.
Yeah. See, most of us don't even get that kind of advice. I'm seen in the group where like women are like, oh my God, like my milk is coming in. Like, how do I get rid of it?
Yeah.
Anything else? Any other like helpful tips they gave?
It was that you had to make sure like water didn't hit that area, nothing stimulated it, which would cause the milk to come too. I did that. Gosh, what else did they tell me?
Anything they told you, or anything that was like a shocker that you were just like not prepared for once you got home?
No, I mean, I guess I just wasn't really prepared for how uncomfortable a C-section was going to be. But aside from that, no, I don't think anything else was just like a shock. I was at a really great hospital. It's a baby hospital in Atlanta. Northside Hospital. It's really awesome. So for the most part, the girls there were amazing, and they did send me home with what I needed. Oh, well, I had to also get, gosh, so when you have a C-section, I did not know that you need those big old like lace granny panties or whatever they are. The little netted.
Yeah. Well, either way, once you deliver, you have to put on those like big panties, and then you put like those pads on that don't catch
the pad is like that big.
Yeah, but they don't catch anything because they don't have wings on them, and it's like,
no, they didn't have wings.
Right?
Yeah.
It makes no sense because you're bleeding so much.
Yeah.
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 These are all the things that I want to fix.
Yeah, and you should fix them. You should fix them. So, I mean, that I didn't know. I'm sure most moms that have had kids do know that. I didn't. But,
I didn't know either. The first time I was like, what is that? Is that a sheet?
I know.
I don't want to wear that sheet. What is that?
Girl, I know. And I'm like, well, just give me 5 more of those. I just need extra. But yeah, that was really it. Just to help me not produce breast milk.
Well, that's a great tip. I had no idea because, like I said, I was totally caught off guard, and unfortunately, a lot of women, they're caught off guard with just not even knowing what happens to your body after pregnancy on a whole, like just not even knowing that you're going to bleed for a few weeks.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Your body has to, and this is the tricky part about loss, because it's like your body takes longer to catch up to like what's happening up here and what's happening here and what's happening in like real life.
Yeah, because your body thinks that your child is here and present. Right. When your child isn't, your body is still reacting that way. So yeah, totally. It's hard. It's hard.
It's very hard. But I do thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm so proud of you. Like, I've just, I don't always get a chance, when I can, I'll like pop in your inbox like, hey girl, what's going on? Or I'll like, check in on the group when it gets quiet and stuff like that. But I have definitely been, following you and reading your blog, and I just see that you're just on this amazing journey, and I can't wait to see where it takes you, because I know you're going to do something, like DJ existed for a reason, and at some point, it'll all not make sense, because that wouldn't.
I know it.
I think you know what I mean. Like it'll.
Yeah, come together and.
The pieces will come together in some kind of way where you're like, okay, I can see where his life had meaning, even though it wasn't for long. Right. Yeah. So I'm excited to see what happens. What's next for you? You have your blog going. What else do you want to do?
Yes. So I'm really working on just like more just genuine content for my blog, and finding other ways that I can really just help and touch women and support them, really from like the self-care inspiration aspect. And I'm starting a blog. So I'm starting a YouTube channel. So that's something that I hope to have by the end of this month, if not the beginning of December.
Awesome.
And yeah, just going from there. I've been thinking about potentially writing a book. I'm just, girl, I'm so into just elevating and helping others on such a different scale. So I'm really thinking about that too. So we'll see. And a lot of prayer for guidance.
Yes, because we
go wrong with that.
Well, thank you again for sharing your story, and I'll be sure to link everyone to your blog and your social media so that they can keep up with you, read your blog, and just follow all this journey you're on. And I think I resonated with you a lot because blogging was my saving grace.
Yeah.
That was because I am an introvert, so I'm not the best at like communicating my feelings to people. Well, I've gotten a lot better. Thank you, therapy.
Right. Hashtag.
Right. But for me, writing is like my outlet, and I didn't really have anywhere to really share my feelings except my blog. So I kind of like see myself in you a little bit, and that's why I'm always like making sure like I, see what you're going on with and stuff like that, because writing is so therapeutic. I personally think you should write a book because I love reading your blog. I love the way you put words together.
Thank
you. Definitely go for it.
Thank you. I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, but keep sharing. I can't wait to see your vlogs. And I think documenting your journey is going to be so amazing. A few years from now, when you read these blog posts and you watch these videos that you're going to create, you're going to be blown away by the amount of progress you made, by all the things you've accomplished, and just how far you've come as a woman. Experiencing this at a young age is, it's hard.
Yeah.
Especially when it's your first, but I know that you're gonna just like keep rising, and you're keeping God first, and you're just out here taking care of yourself, going to therapy, like all of that. Like, you're gonna be great. So I can't wait to see what's next.
Thank you. I'm so grateful for all those kind words. You are amazing.
You're amazing, and I'm excited to just keep watching you grow.
Oh, and I'm excited to watch you grow together.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching this episode of Baby Lost Talk. I'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.